Oh, here we go once again. You've been a bit of a naughty person recently, and with that attitude of yours, it does not go unnoticed, and there are consequences for doing so. And let me remind you, if that does continue, if it does persist, there will be severe consequences. Okay? So aside from the alt intro, which is fully available on OnlyFans, not, today we're going to be taking a look at both Dylan Rounds and Kenny Veach situation, because I made a prediction on both occasions and I predicted it right, and that's to do with influxes in levels of degeneracy from some, egocentrism and their attitudes, and double standards and hypocrisy. I've seen it all over time and how it's developed, how people have revealed themselves and how people have just come and gone in that case. Aside, you've got the people who remain consistent in just simply watching or, showing basic respect. I appreciate those people. But there's a fair few that just appear and the way they act, it's like pathetic. And this is the thing. When it came to the Dylan Round situation, because I've only just got involved, 2 to 4 days looking at it, I'm not going to know that much. And yet all these waves of people are coming in at different time intervals saying, oh, why are you not covering this? Why not covering that? Why have you not highlighted this? If you went here and you went there and you looked at this and you looked at that, then you would know. And it's like, calm the fuck down, because you're almost like the type of person that kept the mouth shut when it came to the Kenny Veach case because you didn't know too much about it at the time. You didn't know about all the informations, findings and material discovered over time. And yet, when those sort of people did come along who were confused, who didn't know the situation, who simply asked questions or pointed things out, potential links, how did I respond? Did I reply back in an impetuous manner? Did I, whinge or whine in a narcissistic way? No, I just simply said, oh yeah, I did cover that previously in a past video. Here's a link to it for you to understand. In addition, here's an additional link for you to enhance the understanding of the situation. Or if someone else said, have you covered this? Have you covered that? I'd be like, yes, I have covered it previously. Here's a video to it. That's it. I wasn't like, oh my God, what the fuck are you doing, man? Here's a link, click on it right now. Oh my God, how could you even ask me something like that? It's so rude. Hello, look at who I am. No, I did none of that. There's no point putting someone down or looking down at someone who doesn't know something. If they don't know, they don't know. How will they know? You can't have access to everything all at once. Obviously, you might not be able to find all the key stuff all at once. There might be certain keywords or certain titles, combinations you've got to search to find that stuff. Some things aren't just that accessible. End of the day, it's just the way it is. But I think people over time, and that can happen any place, anytime, anywhere, even in another case situation, people seem to forget that. You know what I'm saying? Just because this time around people may know more or be more up to date than somebody else, that they end up getting all bossy and displaying an attitude and stuff. So it's like, oh, here we go again. So it is typical. As well, with the whole double standards, you do one thing and then people complain. You do the other, then people complain. We've seen that before, and it's just kind of typical. I think at the end of the day, because this is another thing, key point to put in, like when people say, oh, you should be doing this, you should be looking at this, you should be looking at that, and yet when I actually looked myself afterwards, some of the points, theories and ideas by private investigators and other people, they were exactly what I said, and it's like, wow. One of the private investigators, I think one of the main ones people were referring to, I clicked on one of the videos, a 5-minute one, and the first bloody sentence mentioned was, well, the private investigator believes that because of the environment and that small town, there's a bit of a conflict with people and Dylan, and that could have led to his disappearance. That's basically what I said in my last video I did about the town, maybe dodgy behaviour, I had a run-in with people, few arguments, and then revenge followed the following days. That's literally what I said. And you've already got pre-established points and theories implemented. And I've already come up with that stuff without even being influenced or exposed to it. You see what I'm saying? And this is why it's important how you can carry the Kenny Veach case and cross that over to the Dylan one and maybe some others with certain theories and ideas. Not going too full in, not looking at all the information all at once to clutter your mind or cause confusion, especially if there is uncertainty and misinformation, but taking it at a slowish pace, because from what people have said is, yeah, this may have happened back in May, back then, and it's only like, what, resurfaced again all of a sudden because family have reached out to different people now in news channels because, what, police weren't doing the job or things weren't really going to plan. Okay. So the way information follows over time, it might be dead at one point, then it builds up, like a range of it, a pool of it, and then it might go quiet again, up and down, kind of like with the Kenny Veach case. Certain patterns, certain trends, but also certain patterns in behaviour of people that come along at different time intervals who at one point may be exposed to a lot of information and then other times not. And it depends how the people act and react at those times accordingly. And, you know, some people do act out and play up. So that is unfortunate at the end of the day. I guess we'll see what happens next. As for other predictions, well, this is my next two predictions, okay? Depending on how much coverage this case gets, you know, if it's constantly covered by a range of people, mainly the popular channels and the news channels, I guess focus is diverted, spread out. But if it does quieten down, it becomes a bit of a cold case, and I just so happen to still be covering it, let's just say, because I'm catching up, but I'm also looking at other ideas and other concepts in between, then I may become the next target, okay? We saw it with the Kenny Veach case. Whether it's serious or not, joking around or not, it doesn't matter. It can happen. And the reason why it happened with Kenny Veach is because it was more of a cold case. Things died down. And then I came along and then other people started covering it after that. You know what I'm saying? You know, really hammering it on because I was doing quite a few videos, so it made me the main target in that sense. In terms of boots on ground, before that, Sean was the main target because he was out there, he was in that environment and things happened to him. As for the digital online side, I was the target. Does that make sense? So that could happen with Dylan Rounds if everything else quietens down and other channels. If not, then it probably won't be as bad. I guess it also depends on who's tied up in the case. With Kenny Veach, I guess, you know, you had a suspicion of certain family members and certain family members tied to the case. And that was mainly it. As for other people, like military, government, you know, a bit of a stretch, but further out there, they're not going to come directly after you or do anything because they don't see you as a threat unless you are on their land or something or doing something illegal. But in this case, you know, depending how certain people interpret it, regardless of how bitchy some people get, you know, some people are a little bit suspicious about family or certain family members. Some people may be a bit suspicious of the police or the FBI. Other people, you know, with the threats and dangers of Brenner, with his past history and some of his friends or other contacts. And then the actual place, Montello, bit of a ghost town, and about 50 to 55 people live in there. And then there's some other dodgy stuff going on. I don't know if it's to do with religion or not. You see what I mean? When you get more groups and ranges of different people of differing threat levels and stuff, I guess the more people involved, I mean, aside from the idea of having more people involved solving a case, which is good, if you've got more people involved in a mystery who are suspects or potential danger or threat, then you got to be a bit more careful, a little bit more wary. And, you know, end of the day, people can say, so what? You're not there, so it doesn't matter. That's not the point. It can still lead to indirect action and responses from some people. You know, one thing, because people won't always accept, if someone can get stalked, which leads to, you know, some kind of unwanted, unnecessary assault, and that could happen all through just simply an individual coming across somebody else on Facebook, stalking the profile, they get rejected by that person, so they become some kind of obsessive thoughts, and that leads to excessive action. They track the person down and then do whatever they do to them. That can happen, that has happened, and it will happen quite a bit. You know, you see in the news and stuff. So, and that can happen all online. So the same can happen here. You know, people like to come out with the Mr. Ruler, level-headed type mentality of, oh, nothing's going to happen. Oh, no, man, no. And it's like, there's no harm in documenting the stuff as one goes along. at a certain pace, because if you don't document certain stuff, you don't get a hold of the evidence, how can you prove it down the line? Whether it be reporting somebody because of how they've acted, showing it to somebody to prove a point. You know what I'm saying? It's necessary regardless of whether it's serious or not, because it ties in with the case, whichever one that is. So I think that's basically it, end of the day. I'm sure there'll be more complaints down the line. Who knows what type of degeneracy will appear next, but as I said, it's still worth covering. It doesn't get in the way of making the other videos. Okay, so that's under control. It's under control, okay? So I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching and goodbye.